All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number I don't know, 195, 196, somewhere in there is a number. 195, that sounds good. So, today, I'm exhausted. Uh, good news. By the time this uploads, there'll probably only be a few hours left before the next Essential Essence 20 goes live. It's recorded. It is time stamped. It is. I made the thumbnail and I've already uploaded it. I scheduled it to go live at 11 a.m. on Friday just to see if posting videos before noon changes how often people watch it. So that's a thing. However, because of that, and just because of how much time it took to record that, I'm absolutely exhausted. So I thought about doing the video where I talk about the stuff that I liked about Dawn Trail and going into to the kind of plot threads that I saw that I think could be the next kind of overarching arc. But I'm too tired to do that right now. So I wanted to talk about one of the comments that I got. And I'm slowly working on replying to quite a few of the comments from both of my Final Fantasy 14 videos, because people have been having wonderful discussions in the comment section. So if I haven't replied to your comment yet, I'm getting to it. If you got a notification that I hearted your comment and then it's not hearted anymore, it was because I was going through and hearting a bunch of comments that I had already responded to, and I got a little overzealous. I use the heart basically as a way for my brain to know that I've seen, I've read, and I've responded to it. So, that being said, there was one of the comments, and I'm not going to read the entirety of it because the comment itself gets really, really negative. Not towards me, but towards Dawn Trail. And that's not what inspired me about it. But the first sentence of the comment was, I wondered how they were going to throw anything at the Warrior of Light that could possibly be a challenge, considering what we'd done up to that point. And from a storytelling perspective, this is actually a really important question to answer, because this is something that has to be dealt with in a lot of different situations. Anytime you basically have a serialized story that continues, you have to effectively be able to find a way to quote unquote one up the last story, especially if you have a character that is slowly growing in power. And this can be in video games, this can be in TV shows, in movies. The place where I think it happens most often is in comic books, because comic books in general, especially if you're looking at the subgenre of comic books that is superhero comic books, part of the character growth of every comic book hero ever is they have to kind of learn how to use whatever their superhero abilities are. And they're constantly met with a rogues gallery of villains that challenge them and force them to learn how to use their abilities in new ways. And eventually they just keep getting to bigger and bigger things. We actually saw this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was Iron Man, and the big baddie, the thing that was going to be so horrible, was one dude that stole an armor design from Iron Man. And that was it. Oh, and the fact that a lot of the weapons that Stark Industries was making was going to terrorists. That isn't really, a huge thing. Like, one dude, you've basically created a single supervillain. It's really not a big deal for most superheroes. If they only have one dude that they ever fight, they are a slow moving superhero. But then as the Marvel Cinematic Universe keeps going, you get to Iron Man 2. Well, what happens when someone else can do what Iron Man can do? And theoretically, the question that they keep asking in that movie over and over again is, how long is Iron Man going to be unique? How long is it going to take, now that people know the technology exists, how long is it going to take for us to have a dozen Iron Mans, 100 Iron Mans, 1,000 Iron Mans, where these people, just with enough money, can turn themselves into superheroes? That's a really big issue. And then we go to Thor and Captain America, and Thor is, well, what happens when actual deity-like beings start interacting with Earth again? Iron Man is cool, but Thor is the god of thunder. And then he has to fight against the god of trickery and lies who sends a death robot against him. This is all stuff getting really crazy. And then the weirdest part about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is when we go back to the 40s, where Captain America, the first Avenger, happens, then we're actually dealing with world-ending things. Because if Red Skull succeeds, his weapons and things like that are so far advanced of anything else that any of the allies have, that anybody in the world has, that he could quite literally take over the world. And then we have the Avengers, and they actually save the world. And again, this is a really, really common thing in comic books in general, is eventually you will go from single bad guy and just kind of street level crime to your rogues gallery, to dealing with team ups of either your rogues gallery or other rogues galleries. And then eventually you get to the point where you are teaming up with other superheroes to save the planet. And then you have to ask, well, you've just saved, as far as we know, you've saved everyone in existence, because we tend to think of our planet being it. Well, what do you do then? Well, the inevitable thing in most comic books is you go to space. You start doing that, and that's effectively what happened in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is we stopped dealing with stuff that was threatening just our planet. And we started dealing with stuff that was threatening the galaxy. And then by the time we get to the Infinity War movies, we're dealing with things that are a danger to reality and existence itself. And when you finish dealing with that, what do you do after that? The same thing can happen in tabletop RPGs, where you will constantly start creating new, more vicious, more powerful beings that they have to deal with. And they actually, I can't remember where I read this. It might have been a D&D Beyond article, or it might have been something back in like Dragon Magazine or Dungeon Magazine back in 4th edition. But the basics of the tier system in D&D 5th edition, for anyone that's unaware, there is a tier system in D&D 5th edition where tier 1 is considered levels 1 through 4, tier 2 is 5 through 10, tier 3 is 11 through 16, and tier 4 is 17 through 20. And one of the reasons that they group things in those 4 tiers is the scope of what your party does grows every time you move to a new tier. A tier 1 party is generally going to be the heroes of a small town or a small area. A tier 2 party might save a country. They start moving out, and now you're, if we're going Forgotten Realms, now you're the heroes of the Sword Coasts, instead of maybe the heroes of Daggerford or something like that. Tier 3, you're now starting to save the world. You're not dealing with people that are trying to take over, just a single country or a single city state or anything like that. Now you're dealing with world-ending problems. A lich that intends to, create a country fueled by undeath and then take over the world, things like that. And then when you get to tier 4, you start dealing with cosmic problems. You start dealing with rogue deities that need to be stopped before they do something. You start dealing with things from the abyss that corrupt the mind just from thinking about them. However, it can get really old really, really quick to always go from I saved a town, I saved a country, I saved the world, I killed a god. Like, that becomes really, really repetitive and just really not all that much fun. And sometimes you need something that's not going to be that important, for lack of a better term. There's a better term for that, but I can't think of it right now. But the stakes are just, if the stakes are always that high, and every time you solve one problem, a new worse problem just shows up instantly, your players get burned out. That was one of the things that caused my first long-term campaign to implode on itself. Was I never gave them a chance to kind of bask in their victory. They just went from, their original goal was, we have to stop the Eladrin Empire that had kind of enslaved all of the Kingdom of the Chaos Isles. And as soon as they beat the Council of One, who is the leader of the Eladrin Empire, they were immediately transported to the Feywild and found out that the stuff that was happening in the Kingdom of the Chaos Isles was actually a tiny offshoot of a massive interplanar war that had been going on for hundreds of years. And when they dealt with that, when they got back to the prime material plane, and I started laying the groundwork immediately for the fact that, well, the gods are actually, messing with some pretty heavy shit right now, and they're doing some stuff, and you're going to have to eventually go to them and deal with the gods that are stepping out of their lane. And the players just got sick of it. It felt like every time they did something right, they would just find out, well, that really wasn't that important, because the real problem is this. So what do you do when your group wins? What do you do when they've succeeded? They've solved the big thing. Do you immediately try and one-up it? Do you immediately try and show them, well, yeah, that was really cool, but now you get to deal with this? And from my own experience and the experiences I've had talking to other dungeon masters and things like that, and seeing what happens in other media, the answer is a resounding no. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people quite understand, just how important this idea is. Saving the world is very, very important. Don't get me wrong. However, something that involves something personal to you can be infinitely more important than saving the world. There is a movie. It is a god-awful movie. I love it. I love everything about it. I have watched it like 100 times. It's called The Core. Aaron Eckhart and Hilary Swank are in it, along with a bunch of other amazing people. Stanley Tucci is in it. He's amazing. He's amazing in everything. I love Stanley Tucci. The plot of this movie is the Earth's core, for anyone that doesn't know, as far as we knew back then, we're starting to realize that we don't understand the Earth's core nearly as well as we thought we did. But as far as we knew back then, our the electromagnetic field that surrounds the Earth, and one of the more important things that it does, it protects us from solar radiation and stuff like that. That is generated by the fact that our core is molten metal and it's swirling, it's moving. Moving metal very fast creates magnetic fields. That's actually science. That's a real thing. Or creates electromagnetism. That's how a lot of quote unquote clean energy, that's how a lot of it is generated. That's not how all of it is generated. But things like hydroelectric power or windmills and things like that, what they do is they actually move metal between, I think it's copper and a magnet, because they react and they create energy and stuff like that. I don't remember the exacts. I used to, but my brain doesn't work anymore. Anyway, something happens and the Earth's core stops rotating and we start losing the protection of this EM field, and the world is going to end. And so the big solution that they come up with is they're going to create a ship that allows people to go to the core of the Earth and restart it with nuclear weapons. If it sounds like nonsense, it's because it is. Everything about this movie is just bonkers. The science that they use is flimsy at best. It is just a hell of a ride. But one of the characters in it is played by this brilliant French actor that I can never remember how to pronounce his name. What's his name? I think it's K. Caillou. He's a Turkish-French actor. He's absolutely brilliant. He's been in so many different things. He's in GoldenEye. If you remember that, he played in Kiss the Dragon with Jet Li. He played the bad guy in that. He's a really brilliant actor. I absolutely love him. And I cannot pronounce his name correctly. Anyway, so he's playing this character who has a couple kids. And when he's going on this, Aaron Eckhart's character is going, I see all this stuff and I see what we're doing. It seems impossible. How can I save the world? And Caillou's character goes, you want to know what I'm doing? And he pulls out this picture of his family. He's like, save the world? That is too much. But these right here, these little faces, I can save them. So don't try to save the world. Just try to save one person. And it's a brilliant idea. Is this idea is like he's not here to save the world. He's there to save his daughters. And when you're thinking about challenging your characters and creating stakes that matter to them, yes, saving the world feels like it should matter to a lot of people. And theoretically it should, but if you look at modern discourse right now, it's remarkable how much people don't really care about the world. And the reason why is the world is such a big, massive place. And there's so many people there. So many more than we will ever know, we will ever be able to meet in the entirety of our lives. The most well-traveled person in existence will meet less than 1% of the entirety of the world. When you have over 7 billion people, 1% is still in the tens of millions. There's so much. You're never going to be able to fathom that. The idea of like the vastness of just our solar system, we can't deal with that. The vastness and size of our own sun doesn't make sense to us. It is so big and so massive that our puny little human brains just can't fathom it. And that's just our star. When you start going to the vastness of space, the fact that our galaxy is one of what, thousands, hundreds of thousands? I have no idea because I haven't studied astronomy in a long time. I mean, it's just bonkers. But those things that we're personally invested in, our relationships, those can be so much more impactful and so much more important to us than saving the world. So, how do you challenge the warrior of light? You know, how are you going to throw anything at the warrior of light that could possibly be a challenge, considering what they've done up to that point? They not only have saved the world multiple times, they have saved multiple versions of the world, and they now saved existence from the thing that ends worlds. Like, that's what the final boss of Endwalker is the idea of entropy. It's the idea that this is what eventually happens to all worlds, is they eventually are visited by this and it ends them. And we ended that. You don't get any bigger than that. You just saved existence. You saved every world that has ever existed, will ever exist, and currently exists. Doesn't get any bigger than that. So how do you challenge them? You stop trying to get something bigger and you focus on what is important. Focus on relationships. Focus on the things that a lot of people don't think about. You know, things like after World War II. Like, World War II was a bunch of countries banding together to save the world. Like, a lot of people, because it's so long ago and so few people are still alive that remember anything about it. That's what it was pitched as. If we didn't stop the Nazis from what they were doing, they would take over the world. So this was, we're trying to save the world. And after everything was done, the world wasn't fixed. There was still stuff. But more importantly, all the people that came back from war, whether they were soldiers, whether they were politicians, whatever, they still had to deal with life. They still had to deal with, you know, father coming back from war, that's just one, comes home and finds out that their daughter is being bullied at school. They're going to be so much more invested in winning that battle than anything that happened over there. Yeah, they saved the world, but this is my daughter. Or you come back and you find out that the factory that you used to work at is closing now. Everybody's going to be going out of, losing their jobs. That is going to affect your life so much more than a war that happened thousands of miles away. So how do you challenge the people that have saved the world? You make something personal. You find something personal to them and create a challenge around that. And it doesn't have to be life-threatening. It doesn't have to be, well, if I don't do this, then people are going to die. It can just be, we came back to our starting city and we found out that the tavern that we originally started in, this is where, a bunch of adventurers meet in a tavern. This is the tavern. And we come back there to kind of reminisce and drink a beer to our adventures, and we find out that the tavern is closing. Why is that happening? Well, the rent was due. And they've been hit pretty hard. After, when everybody is worried about the world ending, priorities change. People start spending in different ways. People start doing things in different ways. If the battle itself was happening anywhere nearby, probably a lot of people left the city. But rent still has to be paid. Wages still have to be paid. Food still needs to be purchased. And so now somewhere that actually has value to the players on an intrinsic level, because saving the world, yeah, we're heroes, that's what we do. But saving the person that's one of the reasons that you got together, now that's a real challenge. And it's not something that they can go and just cast a spell and fix. Let's write an adventure right now. You go, you stop Vecna from reemerging. You come back, and again, you're there to kind of toast, and you come back and you see that the tavern itself is closed. That's strange. You start looking around trying to find clues. You ask some questions, and you find out that because of this whole Vecna thing, most of the people in the town left. And the tavern closed because they just couldn't keep their doors open. But tavern owner's still in town. They're doing everything they can to kind of scrape money together. Right now, they've opened up a clothes washing service. The people drop off their clothes, and then they just sit there and they wash them. Very similar to basically how Charlie's mother in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that's how she made her money. She washed people's clothes. Because no matter what, clothes got to be cleaned. And it's not an enjoyable existence to have, but it's work. And so now the party has to decide, okay, well, what do we want to do? We can't, we could give her money. That's not going to really fix anything. And yeah, she doesn't have to do that, but the town is deserted. How do we fix that? Do we go out and talk to every single person, try and get them to come back? Do we go to the ruler of the town, whether it's a king, a mayor, whatever, and try to convince them that they need to do something to invite people back? That is a real problem that can't be solved by, going into a rage or casting a really powerful spell. And that's something that the players are going to be invested in. If you've kind of built your campaign right. Having NPCs that they care about go through hard times that have nothing to do with evil dragons or death wizards or the gods doing horrible things, and just running into hard times. Those are the things that you want to do to challenge the party that has ruled existence and has saved the world. Find something personal and give them a plot, an enemy that's not physical. They come back to their hometown to find out that one of the NPCs that they really care about, their kid, passed away during the conflict. And now they're so morose and full of hopelessness that they don't know what they're going to do. They're closing down their shop. They're just leaving. They're basically ending their livelihood and ending the progress of their life. They're just going, what's the point in doing anything? My kid's not here anymore, or my husband's not here anymore, or my brother's not here anymore. Those are the things that are going to make them really become invested. Now, if you are dealing with anything involving death or loss, especially of children or anything, this is something that you need to speak to your players about before dropping it on them, because those are subjects that can dredge up incredibly bad memories and experiences. So that is definitely something that you want to go, hey guys, by the way, I have an idea for the next kind of story arc, but it's going to get kind of dark, and it's going to involve, maybe a family losing their child to the war or something like that. Is that something that you guys are willing to deal with? Not that you're going to have to watch them, but you're going to have to deal with the aftermath. It's already happened kind of thing. But yeah, so like I said, I thought it was an interesting idea, and it is something that I've thought about before. I've thought about immensely. Because again, one of the reasons that my first long-term campaign imploded, and I mean spectacularly imploded, to the point where I don't speak to most of the people that were involved in that campaign anymore. Finding ways to create high stakes without the stakes having to be, well, everybody's going to die. It's the same thing that I say over and over again when I'm talking about combat design, is the idea that you can only create combat encounters where the win condition is the bad guys die and the lose condition is the heroes die for so long. That works super well in tier 1, works relatively well in tier 2. By the time you get to tier 3, death is such a minor inconvenience for them that it really doesn't matter. So by the time you're running tier 3 content, you have to start creating encounters where the win condition isn't you killed the bad guys. The win condition could be you saved the people that were about to be sacrificed, or the win condition is you protected the dam that they were trying to break that would have flooded the nearby city and killed everyone in it. Those kind of things become significantly more important. And again, sometimes the most important adventure that you can go on, and the most important thing, has nothing to do with saving anybody's life, and has everything to do with just protecting the people that you have strong feelings about. You know, your parents lose their home. That's a much, much bigger deal than a war that's going on the opposite side of the planet. That's a real thing that you have to deal with. And it has real consequences. Stuff like that. So yeah, I hope this is something that is interesting to you guys. Like I said, eventually I am going to make a video going a little bit more in depth into Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail stuff and where I think the series might be going. And the stuff that I think might right its course. Because again, I don't think the MSQ in Dawntrail was particularly well written. And I've made 2 videos about why it wasn't well written. But I don't think it is, I don't think Final Fantasy XIV is dead or anything. I don't even think that the writers themselves are hopeless, as a few people have kind of pointed out. No, we need to get back these guys. No, again, I'm a trainer. The idea that there are some people that just simply can't do something, I've never believed that. It's such an extremely rare situation where there's someone that they are just completely incapable of learning how to do something well. It's such an anomaly, and everybody just assumes so quickly, something doesn't come to them easy. I guess this just is something that I can't do. No, certain people have to work harder to do things than other people. But with the right training and the right attitude, most people can learn how to do just about anything. So, anyway, it's going to be all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.